we are streaming. But are we streaming to YouTube? If so, how would I know? You would imagine we're doing some sort of streaming. Oh, I am streaming. Hell yeah. Okay. So, I don't know if this is the best way to do this. But we are. Okay. Excellent. It looks like I am streaming. Okay, cool. Sorry for the wait, guys. I don't know if it was much of a wait or not. Probably nobody's gonna watch this, but that's okay. uh, yeah, I wanted to start a live stream today. I am a digital marketer living in Tokyo. My name is Devin. And today I wanted to kind of start documenting some of my thoughts about living in Japan, what it's like living here in Japan as someone from Canada like me, kind of talk about my experiences here. I'm someone who's been living here for about 5 years. I learned Japanese in university back in Canada, probably started about 10 years ago, so I'm fluent enough in Japanese. I work in a Japanese company in digital marketing here in Tokyo. And yeah, I just thought I had a lot to say about Japan. So I wanted to start some live streams to kind of start talking about those ideas. So today I'm just testing out this setup. I don't know if it's gonna be the one we're doing going forward, but it's what I have set up for now. And today I wanted to cover a few topics specifically. I'm going to be doing them in sequence, probably, and then if there's any questions kind of in the meantime, then I can answer those kind of Japan related questions. But today's stream is going to be kind of centering mainly on work life in Japan and kind of living in Tokyo, what that's like, and in general some of the realizations and ideas I've had while living here. So just to get started, I'm gonna be like looking at my laptop for notes and stuff, but um, I wanted to talk a little bit about what it's like to actually live, like work in a Japanese company in Japan here. There's been a lot of talk online about how, Japanese companies are so kind of bureaucratic and they're so inefficient and everybody has to stay late and everybody works so hard. And definitely, there are places in Japan where that is reality. I myself uh, have the kind of unique experience of having worked for the Japanese government. So, about 2.5 years ago is when I ended my work with a prefectural government in northern Japan. And that job specifically is very much uh, the most bureaucratic, the most top down, the most uh, traditional, I guess you would call it, job in Japan. And certainly for someone like me, who's like pretty creative or wants to, kind of actually have some real impact on in my job and stuff. I think that that sort of job fits the category of a Japanese workplace. You know, But recently, in the past 2.5 years, I moved to Tokyo, and it was like a complete 180 in terms of the type of job that I got. So, working in digital marketing for kind of like a startup. We're not a super big company, but it's a fairly international company. We do digital marketing for like global audiences, so trying to market Japanese companies to the world. So fairly forward thinking, super kind of you know individual responsibility, things like that. And actually, I work from home, so a lot of the demerits that everybody talks about for Japanese companies, and I feel like in the media recently, there's been a lot of talk about how, oh, it must suck to work in Japan, and Japan is such a great tourist destination, but it's not for living necessarily, or a lot of people get major shock when they come to live in Japan and they start working, and it's not exactly what they thought. And I think, yeah, for the most part, that I don't know if it's for the most part. I think for most foreign people coming to Japan, their first job will end up being something like either an English teacher, or maybe even working in like a bigger company doing something like coding, or depending on their skill set, I guess. And in those cases, yeah, it can be kind of a traditional, but in my case, it is not traditional at all. And there are actually plenty of these sorts of jobs out there. Hybrid work is also a big thing that's been quite popular over the past few years. Uh, my company is almost exclusively remote. We go into the office once a month. And so I wanted to talk about that because, you know, even though that is the conception about Japan, it is not for everyone. And you can definitely find some job somewhere that fits your work style. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about this later too, but, Tokyo is the biggest city in the world. And even with the weak yen right now, I think it's the second highest GDP city of any city in the world. And so there's always going to be opportunities to find the type of work that you're looking for, especially in a place like Tokyo. Um, there's going to be trade-offs depending on your skill set when getting here and stuff like that. But I thought that was a pretty important point that nobody talks about recently. So there was that. So basically, you have these kind of like two, what do you say, like opposite poles. So you have maybe like government work, which is the most strict, and then you have startup work, which is completely the opposite. There's plenty in between. I would recommend maybe for people who want a more fun, flexible jobs, um, things like maybe like tourism, being a tour guide, digital marketing. Even if your Japanese isn't good, you could even do something like headhunting, which is for getting workers. I don't know if I guess everybody knows what headhunting is. But yeah, there's plenty of positions even for non-Japanese speakers for headhunting that I think you end up working quite a lot in that job, but at least it's dynamic and kind of your outputs are kind of fairly evaluated, and there's a lot less due process. So I think those are some kind of interesting job opportunities for people maybe thinking about coming to Japan. And also a point that I don't think gets talked about a lot, and I think it's really important nowadays, especially in the age of AI, and you see all of these kind of headlines about, you know, everyone losing a ton of jobs all around the world, and big companies are making huge cuts to their workforce, kind of out of the blue, and trying to replace them with AI. And Well, I don't think that that is necessarily a something that will continue 100%. Who knows? Maybe the trends will change over time. Japan has a unique kind of worker protection system here, uh, and that is called like seishain. So it is like a regular employed worker. It's not like a contract worker or anything. But the workers here in Japan are basically unfireable. You can't just say, oh, we want to downsize, so we're cutting people, we're firing people. It is incredibly hard to fire people in Japan, and it's such a hassle that most companies, after your like initial period, there is a period where they can test you out, but after that period, uh, it is so hard to fire people that most companies will never fire anyone, and if they really want you gone, they'll just stop giving you work. Um, which seems pretty ideal in the age of AI and job security. I think nowadays a lot of people are having trouble finding jobs, so Japan, especially Tokyo, is a really great opportunity for that. And something I've been thinking about a lot recently because, maybe in 3 to 5 years, who knows what the job market is going to look like with AI, but I thought Japan is still fairly like stable and safe, which is a plus. One of the minuses, I don't know if I want to talk about this now, but one of the big minuses is this mikomi zangyo is a topic. It's a word that means like included overtime or like it's expected. Um, and basically, depending on the contracts you get for your work, a lot of employers will expect you to do some overtime as part of your regular wage. So in my case, I think it's 45 hours a month, which equates to maybe like 11 hours a week, uh, which might sound like a lot, and it is, uh, but that is kind of the expectation. And I think it's one of the main roots of why people in many positions end up working a lot extra and not seeing a lot of benefit. So if you plan on coming to Japan and you want to work, there's kind of a few options. I mean, depending on your skill set, you might want to. Uh, I don't know if you'll have all the options necessarily, depending on what you're coming here with. I would recommend, if you come here with like a sellable skill or a skill that the market needs, obviously you can negotiate much better roles in general. But yeah, try and reduce your mikomi zangyo as much as possible. Um, I'll talk about this a little bit later in like the living, what it's like to live in Tokyo section. But yeah, it's really important. So uh, after that, they kind of have to pay you overtime. And even though you work overtime and maybe you work more than you would in the West, your job is fairly secure. So that's pretty cool. The job market is also really, really soft, I guess, or it's really easy to enter, I think. Maybe not if you have zero skills whatsoever. If you only speak English and you have no skills, that's going to be very hard for you. So that's the big caveat. But if you're someone like me and maybe you wanted to learn Japanese and maybe you're interested in Japan, uh, Japanese in and of itself is still actually, in my experience only, good enough to kind of let you pivot into whatever you want here. Just because, at least in my case, fluent, like native English speakers and who also speak fluent Japanese are fairly rare and uncommon. So just having that skill set alone and maybe an interest in a certain area of work uh, would be more than enough to get you a job. And this is not just my experience getting one specific job. in digital marketing, but I spent maybe 3 months searching for a job while I was living up north in Japan. And I had so many interviews, and there were plenty of places I turned down actually, because I didn't think like it would be a good fit for me. But people are more than happy to hire you, because they can teach you. They can't teach you an extra language on the job, but they could teach you, you know, how to market, or they could teach you the specific skills in those jobs. Um, and that's actually another really important thing is in Japan, and this is not for everything, but uh, a lot of workplaces, if they're hiring for new staff, so there's kind of like this idea of like a new grad hire position, where people in Japan don't try very hard in school, uh, which is kind of neither here nor there. But the idea is, you went to university and you need to get a job in Japan. And most companies have really robust on the job training, at least the big companies. Um, and they're a lot more forgiving of mistakes, I think, than in Western countries. So generally, if you can speak English and Japanese, a lot of companies will be happy to train you on the job, which I feel like is like a really big difference compared to Western companies where maybe you need to, the memes on like LinkedIn job offerings. It's like you need to be, you need to have 3 years experience for being an intern. How many coffees have you bought and given to your CEO in the past? Did you mess up his order too many times? So that's kind of a, well, message retracted. Soybean Shinobi. Cool, cool. I'm just looking at chat. Hey, Yuval, how's it going? Um. Anyways, what was I talking about? Yeah, so I think the job market in Japan is actually pretty soft. If you did want to learn Japanese, I got a lot of shit for it when I was learning it in university, and I think nowadays university might not be the best use of your time for a lot of things. But it's also a unique opportunity for people who have a degree and don't know what to do with it. Um, I'm not saying you're going to come and move to Japan and you're going to be like balling or like doing super well necessarily, but the minimum requirement for a working visa in Japan is having a degree. So if you have a degree that you're not using, it's actually kind of a decent use case for that. I wouldn't recommend moving to Japan with zero language skill. I think that is kind of a recipe for nice walking at IKEA. Hell yeah, man. Hope you get some foldable chairs. I don't know. I don't know what you're I don't know what you're going for, but anyways, uh yeah, it is kind of an interesting use case for people with a degree, because the job market is softer. I mean, you could come to Japan with zero Japanese knowledge and learn it all here, but it's going to take a long time and a lot of effort. I wouldn't recommend that. Um, but yeah, the job market here is actually pretty good, and you can find the right job if you have the skills here. And really, like Tokyo is just endless amounts of job opportunities. Um, the other uh, opportunities in Tokyo I actually want to talk about in a few minutes here, but um, they're neither here nor there. In Tokyo, everybody comes for kind of job opportunities, um, and they're right to do that. But the cost of living in Tokyo tends to be like your work life balance or your overall quality of life, things like that. So it's kind of like the pros and cons of living in Tokyo versus uh, living in like a more rural area. And that's something that I personally had to weigh too when I was looking for jobs, um, especially if you're a foreigner. I mean, most of the international jobs are in Tokyo, so it'll be very likely you'll end up living and working in Tokyo. And because that's the case, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about Tokyo today. So, having lived in Tokyo for about 2.5 years, I have to say the city is a miracle. It's the biggest city in the world. The streets are clean. Everything's super convenient. Um, it's not unlivable like a massive city like New York. Um, the weather, I mean, the summers are brutal, but the weather in general is really nice. And things just work here. For such a massive city, it's kind of insane the amount of like inequality, I guess you could say, or like general problems that tend to come with like massive populations of people. Um, that being said, I think overall the quality of life in Tokyo from like a holistic perspective is worse. Um, and I think a lot of people living in Tokyo tend to spend a lot of their money trying to pretend like they don't live in Tokyo, which is to say, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I have pretty loud neighbors. I have a kid that's kind of stomping around right above me. And today is a nice day outside. And if I were to go outside and go to, my favorite cafe, it would be packed. Um, and if I were to go to the most well-known ramen place, it would be packed. And if I were to go any of the tourist destinations around Tokyo, they would all be packed. And in 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna go and look at the cherry blossoms, or will I? Because it's all gonna be packed. Um, and so there is this sense that like people, there's just too many people in Tokyo, and the opportunity. It's not that the things don't exist here, for that. It's that you can't access them very easily. And one of that is what I just mentioned, which is like too many people, and so it's not fun. Or like, do you really want to wait 2 hours in line for a bowl of ramen? Some people are maybe okay with that, but I am absolutely not. I think that's disgusting. Uh, language school in Japan. Sure, sure, sure. Give me one sec. Um, maybe I can answer your question now. That's fine. Yeah. Language school in Japan, I think, is good. I think having I've been to Japan as a uh, tourist. I've been to Japan as a student. I've been in Japan as a worker working for the government and a more like flexible job like what I'm doing now. And I think the most freedom I've had in Japan has been as a student, for sure. Um, and I think language school, if you try really hard at it and you're here in Japan, I think it can be a really, really great uh, like stopgap in between, like bridging the Japanese gap while being in Japan and being able to actually enjoy it. With the caveat that I think if you were to do language schooling in Japan, you would want to save up a decent amount of money first. And that's because I don't know about language school visas in particular, but on this student visa that I was on my foreign exchange program, um, you can only work a maximum of 28 hours a week, uh, which might sound okay if you're like also doing language school, but I found definitely that I needed supplemental income, um, especially if you want to kind of like reduce your commute times and make sure that you can get to school, like that you're reasonably close by to your school potentially. It doesn't need to be in Tokyo or anything, I guess. So you could kind of go to another city and do that. I think, uh, yeah, it's a good thing. Um, Bridging that gap between language school and finding a job is quite difficult, I think, because if you're just going to language school, maybe to get like up until N, any N that's not like N2 or N1, like it's going to be quite hard. I think if you spent a year trying really, really hard at language school in Japan, you might be able to get into a more like flexible position of something like a headhunter if you're like really talkative, or maybe into a more like international digital marketing job. Like I actually know some people, like even people in my company that don't speak Japanese very well at all, and they still work for us. So it is possible. Uh, yeah, I hope that answers your question. I do think language school is a great intermediary in between, but I think you have to have your goals set out for it in order to really make the most of it. Oh, and also I know some people who went to language school, and it's kind of the same thing for like um, foreign exchange, where it's like, okay, they're coming on foreign, like everybody has different reasons for doing the things they're doing. Um, if you ever wanted to get a taste of Japan without the like signing away your life to a Japanese company, oh no, the language school is great. If you're using it as a way to get your foot in the door, I would definitely have a like plan in mind, so you can work towards it. Because there's a lot of people who come here, they just want to experience Japan maybe for 6 months or whatever, and then they'll do language school and they had fun and they'll go home. And if that's your goal, that's great. Um, but yeah, you just want to make sure that what you're doing kind of aligns with where you want to go. Because let me tell you, working full time or more than full time and learning Japanese on the side sounds like, I mean, it sounds necessary, because I think to live in Japan, you need to know Japanese, like to live in Japan long term. But man, I would not want to be a ALT or someone's like teaching English and then, maybe working overtime and then having to go home and learn Japanese because I don't know grammar yet and I can't learn it on my own without a certain level of base knowledge. That sounds brutal to be. So, uh, I would I would suggest, yeah, having a base before coming. But yeah. So getting back to Tokyo, this whole too many people is one big problem in Tokyo that I think really limits people's like happiness. Uh, I've I've never uh, experienced this before moving to Tokyo, but the first time I left Tokyo to go on, I was actually doing attending for some influencers, and we went to Mie Prefecture, and it just had like nature And I remember getting off the train and seeing like a big tree, and then I looked over and there was another big tree, and I was like, oh my God, I just had this like huge sense of like relaxation that I didn't know was possible from just like living around less people and trees. Um, yeah, so I think in that way, living in Tokyo is quite stressful. Also, I think the way that people pay to get away from being in Tokyo is people. So, like, if you think of Tokyo as a marketplace, or at least the space where markets happen, uh, all the best deals, no matter at any price like point, at any price range, all the best deals have the most customers generally, unless the place is just starting out, right? All the places that are the most well known, all the places that have already succeeded, uh, have too many people there. And so there are some business models that will be like, hey, we are a like premium workspace, or a place that like you have to pay just to enter. Like there's a lot of these places in Tokyo, not even just like bars, but like you have to pay like a cover just to go inside. And you don't find this so much outside of Tokyo, but it's pretty big in Tokyo. Actually, I find I use these quite a bit, or I used to use them quite a bit, and I like them because there's less people there. It's like you're using money as like a filter to like buy your own space in Tokyo to like just have some private time, and feel like I don't know, to get away from the crowds. Um, and a lot of Tokyo's businesses are built with that in mind. So, a good example is in the Sakura season in 2 weeks from now. There's kind of like three main Sakura viewing places. There's others too, but with these as the example, you have like Uno, you have this Sumida River, and you have Nakameguro River. And you can't go to any of them on the days where it's like a nice day and it's the weekend. I tried last year, and there was so many. It was the worst. Like I should have just stayed home. It's actually It's so not fun. However, that's like the free. That's the freemium experience, right? But if you have money, there are some restaurants in Meguro, for example, that have like a patio terrace, and there just so happens to be like sakura trees that are like right above that terrace, so you can enjoy, you know, kind of the sakura in a relatively chill space with some good food, right? But it's like you have like freemium Tokyo, and then you have like I'm gonna pay extra money so I can feel like a normal human in Tokyo. And I think, um, oh shit, it's Dan. Hey Dan. Learning Japanese on the side of a full-time job now is already draining. Absolutely. But Dan, I mean, you have like real skills, so I think you'd be fine, even maybe with your level of Japanese or close to. You're like you're actually a the perfect candidate for moving to Japan, I think, and enjoying it. Um, Absolutely, man. I think in your case, like you already have some Japanese ability. You could come, you could learn language to get maybe like N2 pretty easily. Um, and then, yeah, just find like a cool job. I think in your case, it's I don't know, like, so this is the caveat too. Like for jobs, you can find a good job in Japan, and it's with the caveat that like you don't have tons of like foreign denominated debt. Like if you somehow like still have student loans or something, uh, for example, like if there's people in America who are watching this or whoever watched this, and you just got out of university and you have student loan debt, do not move to Japan. It's not you can't it's untenable. I know one of my coworkers is American and he gets paid like reasonably well for Japan, but because he has to service his American debt, it is completely untenable. I think like he makes more than the average American working in Japan for sure, but the because of the difference in like raw spending power, you can have a good job in Japan, but if you take that money outside of Japan, it's going to be worth less. So it's something to keep in mind. You know, I think I don't make like if you were to take my salary and turn it into USD this year like I might get a raise still, but it would still be under. It might be like 40K USD or like slightly under that. So, you know, and that sounds like not a lot, but like I have enough to like I can save a decent amount every month now, and I'm not hurting for anything. I could even move to a slightly better apartment probably with no annoying child above me. Um, and I plan to. I want to do that in a few months hopefully, but yeah, taking that money and trying to spend it elsewhere is quite tough. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Also, sorry about the chats. I don't have like a second screen, and so it's hard to switch. It's hard to see the chats and then also see my like talking points that I wanted to talk about. Let's see if we can something like this, I guess. Um, yeah, so Tokyo is really great if you have, but you end up spending money to kind of get away from people. Um, and then another kind of paradox about Tokyo, I guess, is everybody comes here for opportunities. And while all the jobs are in Tokyo, if you think about opportunities in a more broad way, um, the main opportunities that you'll get in Tokyo is from the fact that you can talk with people, especially if you're like a foreign person and you speak Japanese and you're like, you know, affable or people like you're a friendly person. I personally, this is my own like idea about the opportunity in Tokyo. And I'm super biased because, give me one sec, guys. One sec. The opportunities in Tokyo are people. And the reason why I think that is because I have proof. These signs, uh, this sign, I have like a habit of making trade up challenges in Tokyo, which is where I try and trade. Do I have? And this one was for a Charizard, but uh, I I trade a paperclip upwards to see what I can get just by talking to people, and I think it's the most uh, the the physical manifestation of the value that there is in large densities of people with different lives and different values. And because Tokyo is the nucleus of Japan, It's actually so hard to imagine. When I say Tokyo is the biggest city in the world, the Tokyo area has like 36 million people or 37 million people, which is close to the population of Canada in like three prefectures. And that metropolitan area is also more than a fourth of the population of Japan. Uh, so the real the real opportunity is people in Tokyo, but the catch 22 is nobody in Tokyo talks to other people. Like, you move to Tokyo for the opportunity, and then you work your job, and then your job is like, oh, by the way, you need to work maybe like a 10-hour workday, right? And you're like, okay, I'll work my 10-hour workday. And then they're like, and do you live right next to work? Or like, do you not work remotely? If that's the case, you have to spend maybe an hour each way going to work, right? And then that's kind of how things like spiral out of control. Um, Everybody comes to Tokyo for the opportunity, and the opportunity is people in addition to your workplace, I guess. But in my opinion, like, the real opportunity is people. And they don't have the time. And the people in Tokyo in general are so busy. Uh, you know, they all ride in these like trains that are, oh man, the Main Densha is like a fully packed train in the morning. There's like no other experience soul sucking enough to equate to the fully packed train in the morning. Um, the people in Tokyo are a little more cold than the rest of Japan, and the that's the reason. I think the reason is people are working too hard and they're too tired. They just don't have like when the obstacle is people in Tokyo, which it is. You start to see people as like you have like two modes. You have like uh people aren't people. They're a obstacle for me getting to my goal. They're the reason why uh I can't enjoy Tokyo, like in some sense. And then you have the like the other friendly side of you, which is like, oh, I'm talking with someone, and you kind of break out of that, and then they're a real person. But I think a lot of people have this in Tokyo specifically have this feeling that oh, it's like people are like Jama. People are not they're not here to help you. you know, they need to get out of the way on the train. They're the people who are like squishing you in like a sardine on a train, or people who are bumping you in the morning commute and not saying sorry, or people glaring at you because you're a foreigner, I guess. They don't know you speak Japanese yet, or um so yeah, there is this kind of sense that people people are there's too many people in Tokyo. So that's like a big downside of Tokyo. I think some of the pluses of like, all the convenience, like I have 4 or 5 convenience stores in a 10-minute walk from my house. Um, I don't need to go to any of the kind of packed touristy places in Tokyo because there's so many restaurants that, in the my station, the station next to mine, and the other station on the other end of that, there's probably enough restaurants for me to eat at a different restaurant for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day for a year. Like, I think there's more than 1,000 restaurants. Uh, so, you know, there's no need to go to these like super packed places, and Tokyo kind of outweighs a lot of the cons of so many people if you have money, and then you can kind of really enjoy Tokyo. Just the point. If you wanted to live outside of Tokyo, and I really do want to distinguish, it really is living in the Tokyo center versus everything else. I think there's a significant difference between Tokyo, just like the Tokyo entity that is Tokyo has a super different like culture about it compared to the rest of Japan. Even like big cities like Osaka, I lived in Osaka for a year. Totally different. Um, and Kyoto, I mean, Kyoto, I haven't lived in Kyoto, so I don't want to say anything, but Tokyo is getting so inundated with tourism right now that it's probably not like super, super great to live in this right now because things are so packed. But yeah, if you wanted to live in Osaka, for example, for some reason, like people are still tired there, but they're still friendly, relatively. There's plenty of huge cities around Japan that have more than 1 million people, like Fukuoka or even Takamatsu or Kobe, I guess, has about 1 million. Sapporo, though I don't know if I would live in Sapporo personally, but there's plenty of big cities that you can still kind of scratch that metropolitan itch without like living in Tokyo, and the prices are definitely different. And yeah, it's something I was thinking about too, like a really great opportunity. So in the best world is like if I could just get the opportunities of Tokyo without living in Tokyo, if I could just get the job opportunities of living in Tokyo without having to live in Tokyo, then you really solved it. Then, like, you're making. Because the difference in salaries between Tokyo and the rest of Japan is maybe about 20% on average increase, I think. And a lot of the higher paying jobs are basically only in Tokyo. And so the real hack is. Oh, Sora, how's it going? Doing good, doing good. Just figured I'd do some live streaming. Probably chop. I don't know if I can even chop this stuff up into to videos, but I'll try later. But yeah, the real hack is getting a like remote job position in Tokyo, and then like just being like, oh, sorry, I just married a Japanese girl who lives in Fukuoka, so now I'm gonna go live there. Or like, actually, I have at my current company, which is fairly like forward thinking and global and stuff, but of our staff, I think about 10 of them, and our staff is maybe like 40 people or so, so maybe like 20%, 25% of the staff don't live in Tokyo, and they get paid the same salary. They have to come in once a month. Yeah, yeah. I'll get to that in a sec. But I mean, the travel time is so inconsequential. You can fly from Fukuoka to Tokyo in an hour and a half or something, once a month, and that's normally paid by the company. And then from then you just get cheaper rent, cheaper food, less crammed people. You don't have to commute. Even if you work overtime at your job, in that case, like it doesn't matter because you don't spend time commuting. That's like the real hack for living in Tokyo is not living in Tokyo. um, and I would certainly say if you wanted to live in Tokyo, the things I would prioritize the most are number one, your like working time hours that are included in your contract. So whether or not you have to work overtime. Number two is the commute time. So if you can work from home or if it's like hybrid, that is like very, very important. Um, and if you can't do that, I would actually see if, because a lot of companies will actually sponsor, they'll give you extra money to live a few stations away from the office. So they might give you like $500 a month towards rent for something like that, which is pretty cool. Um, and then like if you have to commute, just try and make sure that you're like as close as possible. Um, all right, let's answer some questions here. Yeah, I used to work for the government. Um, Now I work. just in Tokyo doing like digital marketing, and I work from home, which is cool. Um, Yuval, what are my thoughts on dating as a foreigner in Tokyo? I think that it probably depends a lot on demographics. To be honest, like I think, hmm, yeah, this is gonna be it's gonna be maybe a can of worms. But so like for example, in where I used to live in Vancouver, there is actually like quite a significant population of Japanese people there. And the Japanese people who lived in Vancouver, Canada, came to Vancouver, Canada because they like foreign stuff, or because maybe they just don't like Japan. And so, um, when when you meet and talk with them, like there's kind of a bias towards foreign people, for Japanese people in Canada. Um, in Japan, it's not like that, right? Um, so I would say like out of the general population, and this is like totally like paper napkin, also just like my own kind of idea, like you know, most Japanese girls that I've talked to, or like that I've, yeah, that I've had experience like seen or whatever, um uh, the idea of dating a foreign guy is like pretty good to a lot of Japanese people. I think actually dating a foreign guy for like a long time presents a bunch of problems. And so, you can meet a Japanese girl who's not particularly international, but if you spoke Japanese or something to some extent or whatever. Also, like language ability has like a huge, right, impact on this. But uh, assuming you can speak Japanese, you know, they don't need to necessarily like understand, like they don't need to have the same values as you for the first few dates. Uh, and so you can like casually date Japanese people. I get the feeling from some people that I've, like some other foreigners that I've talked to, that like they they're not they might not have been thought of as being like husband material. This is just from completely from the guy's perspective. Um, in that like, yeah, it's super fun and like it's great, but maybe, you know, a lot of foreigners here have like, less they're like less affluent. Um, they make less money, and maybe their long-term prospects are less. And so I think for the average Japanese person, it might be a little bit much to take on. That being said, out of the 100 million people in, or 120 million people in Japan, even if like 5% of them quite like foreign culture, and maybe it's around that, in that pool, like it's certainly a lot easier uh, to be noticed by like that segment of people. Um, so like I think in general, like uh, it's probably easier for foreign people to get some dates or relationships in Japan, assuming that they don't look. Actually, I don't know. There are like a lot of Japanese people really like Korean guys, but I think it is quite specific to like different cultures and stuff like that. It's funny, like in Japan, there's just kind of like, oh, there's Japanese people, and then there's everyone else, and everyone else is a gaijin, and they're all the same. But I think when it comes to like personal preference and type and stuff like that, a lot of, at least on the female side of things, a lot of people are influenced by like different countries' media. Um, And so, like, for example, K dramas are really popular, and so like Korean guys are kind of more mote mote. Maybe they're more like people might like them a little more, or people watched a lot of like the Titanic when they were a kid, or maybe they know like Brad Pitt from Fight Club, or like there's all this like Western media where Japanese people get this kind of like uh, wrong impression about, or not wrong impression, it's just like mismatched expectations, I guess, of what foreign guys are. Like maybe they would go to Canada and be like, oh my god, everybody doesn't look like how they look in the movies or whatever. Um, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of these kind of like influences depending on, I don't know, your background and what your culture is. Um, and then on the flip side, like, mm, yeah, I guess like there's some percentage of the population that's also like pretty openly racist towards certain groups. So like Chinese people in Japan aren't. I think they have a tougher time here, especially nowadays, kind of with like government stuff or over tourism, things like that. Um, but yeah, it really depends. But that's my experience. In short, I think dating is easier in Japan for me specifically, or people from Western countries. Though, if you take it from Dan, just say you're Canadian. It's fine. Say like, no. You could say you're Chinese and then just like, I don't know, show them you in a cowboy hat, or you like fucking benching 330 or something, and you'll be fine. Also, like, there's plenty of girls with like weird, like macho fetishes and stuff too. So that's like, I don't know about plenty, but like in the law of numbers, you know, if you niche down enough, there's always demand for, certain things. And in Japan, yeah, macho is like one of those things too. Um, yeah, kind of a what do you say? Digression from Tokyo, but yeah, quite interesting. Yeah, so I would say living in Tokyo, those are kind of the main points: is trying to reduce your commute time, trying to make sure you don't have to work extra overtime if possible. Make sure you live close to work, and then you can kind of use that extra time to actually enjoy Japan. I personally get a lot of like, I don't know if I'd call it jealousy necessarily, but like you look at people who come to Japan for 2 weeks, and then they like go do all the fun stuff in Tokyo, and then you're like, yeah, but they don't live in Tokyo, and so they don't know the real Tokyo. But I still haven't like went to go visit those places myself. Like my dad's coming in a few weeks, and we're gonna go to like Team Lab Planets, which is like somewhere I actually always wanted to go to, just haven't like found the chance to, kind of thing. I think when you live like in an area, you're kind of less likely to go visit the more like maybe touristy or like famous leisure places. Um, so sometimes I feel like, oh man, some person came to Japan, and then like with their like USD, they traveled Japan for like 2 weeks, and like they did more fun stuff than I, or maybe not more fun stuff than I did in a whole year, but like they they got to see more of Tokyo than it would take, like than I could see for, in my 3 months, because usually I'm working or trying to think of videos, or I'm trying to make a business, like just doing like real life stuff. Um, so the powers of vacation, but yeah, I think if you could find a job in Tokyo and move out, that would be the best. I really do like living in more rural areas in Tokyo. I think people in and this is from fairly limited experience, And I have to say nowadays, now that I kind of like have my own work thing going and I have a girlfriend and I have kind of friends who I see. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, then they go back home and get stabbed by like a homeless person or something, right? Um so, I feel I'm happy enough, living in Tokyo. And also I feel like Japan in general. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But the problem is like you nobody goes to Akihabara. I mean, like if you're really, really, if you're like into cards and stuff, which I guess I still am. I mostly do like digital card stuff now, but a lot of the places that everybody knows about Tokyo, if you live in Tokyo, you don't go there anymore because like it's it's like moving to Japan so that you can go only to the places where all the foreign people are. It's like it's insane. Maybe some people do that and that's totally cool and that's fine. I personally want to try and find places around Tokyo that have like a disproportionate value. So this is kind of an interesting topic. Um, Tokyo has everything in the world. Uh, Not literally, but for all intents and purposes, there is no reason why anybody should feel like Tokyo doesn't meet their individual preferences in terms of like access to stuff. The access is there, but actually Tokyo's big problem, so most cities' big problem is like, oh, I live in a city with 200,000 people and maybe there's not a good like sushi restaurant. And if there is a good sushi restaurant, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a sec. The disproportionate value idea. Basically, um, if you live in, like, for example, Vancouver, maybe Vancouver doesn't have. Vancouver is so international with food, it's like actually a really bad example. But, like, maybe, for example, in like Calgary or like Manitoba or Winnipeg, right? Maybe it's really hard to get good sushi there. And maybe there's one good restaurant, but it's very expensive. Um, and so, because there's only one restaurant, and because the layout of the city makes it very known to people, like you can walk down a street and you can see like a big restaurant, and you'll be like, "Oh, this is Mongolian food. Wow!" And then you can go inside and you can have your Mongolian food, and everybody knows that's the Mongolian place. So everybody knows where everything is. So it's not a matter of knowledge. Everybody knows where everything is. It's a matter of whether or not you have the thing in the city. Tokyo is the opposite. So there's so many things in this. There's literally like it's endless, but everything is like, oh, it's on the fourth floor of the like sixth high rise away from Shinjuku Station, and there's even if there's a sign, you have to look up like 80 degrees or something to see the sign that doesn't tell you what it is. It just says the name of the place, and maybe it's on Google Maps, maybe it's not. So it's an access problem. It's an access of sorry, it's an information problem. It's an access to information. That's the issue. And because Tokyo has everything, it's kind of like living in like an unindexed uh, internet or something. Like I don't know exactly how I would say it, but there is everything. You just don't know what it's called and you don't know where it is. Um, and that's kind of for the better. Like, for example, this disproportionate value idea. Um, all the best pizza places, for example, Tokyo does amazing pizza. But the best pizza places are all well known, or at least the best pizza places that everybody knows about are known. And so when you go to there, you'd be like, okay, I'll reserve 2 to 3 weeks in advance. Sure, great. And then maybe the pizza's like more expensive, right? But that's a way to do it. The places I like to find are like one 1 to 2 stops away from where I live. They're well known ish, like in that specific station, even though the station isn't super frequented or it's just frequented by people in the area. The food quality is really great. Maybe there's like one thing in about, like, for example, there's a pizza place I like, and the service is really bad. um, so I don't care really. Like it's a little weird to me because I've gotten used to like the good service in Japan. But the guy is like like it's just him, and he's just like doing everything, and he's always like kind of grumpy. Like he takes your order, but like he's you can't ask him for anything because it feels like you're intruding on his like I don't know pizza making process, which is weird because you're a customer. Um, and so his pizza is really good, but the service is really bad. And so you can go there on a weekend on a bright sunny day like today, and there won't be a line, and you can get good pizza. And the pizza is like not expensive. That's the disproportionate value because I don't care so much about the service, right? Um, and also like this idea of disproportionate value in Tokyo matters a lot for like finding housing. So uh, because Tokyo is a place with infinite, we'll just say like infinite everything. It, it's not a matter of whether or not there is supply of it. It's whether or not you're willing to pay the cost, right, for whatever it is, and everything is evaluated differently in the market. So, like for example, my place. So I work from home, and I wanted to make sure I don't live in a shoebox, uh, because my whole life is going to be here, right? I work maybe 10 hours a day, 9 to 10 hours a day, and sometimes on the weekends. And if I lived in a shoebox, uh, that would be like very like damaging to my mental health, I think. Uh, and this place is quite cheap. It's big-ish. It's not big, but like by Tokyo standards, it has 2 rooms. I sleep in a separate room. Um, I have a kitchen space. I have my own balcony, etc., and it's quite cheap. And the reason why it's cheap is because it's an old building, right? And the reason why old buildings in Japan are cheap is because they're not valued. In Japan, like in Western society, oh, the building is old. Maybe it was built good, right? There's some like old rundown places, but like you can find nice places in Vancouver that are old. It doesn't mean they're bad, right? But in Japan, there's like a huge bias towards like newly made, renovated, whatever, right? So I don't value that at all. So I just picked like the oldest place with like that could support modern toilets because that's something I value a lot. And I'm like 3 minutes away from the station I live at, and the access is really great, right? And there's some other things I don't like about the place, but uh, you want to try and uh, select for the things that matter to you most, right? Um, so for me, it was like having enough space to do work all the time. Something I realized after I moved here was basically I had to find my place online, and I couldn't actually come and see it because I was living in northern Japan. Uh, so I just picked a place like, oh, the access is good, it's big-ish, that should be fine, right? And then I moved in, and then a month later, I have this fucking family above me that's really loud and annoying. And also, I live next to a school, 2 schools, but I live right next to like an elementary school. So like, because I'm on the second floor, you hear like children screaming a lot um, when they're coming back from school. That's just the way it is, right? But like, uh, that's why this place is cheaper, right? So you can really optimize for the things you want. And if there are things that the market doesn't care that much about, then you can get like really good value. I actually live in like the central Tokyo area. I don't live in a suburb. And I pay, I mean, I think most of the people here are Canadian, so I'll just say in CAD, it's probably like $700 a month. Um, or even less, I guess, with the exchange now. But yeah, and I can get to, for example, like Harajuku in 40 minutes by train. I can get to Akihabara in 25, like Dan mentioned. Um, the access is really good. I can get to my workplace in about 40 minutes, even when like the trains are slow. So yeah, access is really good, and it's a big spot, right? So I mean, going forward, I think I want to pay a little more money to have some more like sound insulation and privacy. Um, but other than that, yeah, you can really get a lot out of living in Tokyo just from that. I think that's probably it, unless there's um yeah, I think I already talked a decent amount about work-life balance. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I wanted to talk about in Japan today. The stream isn't going to be like super long just cuz I don't have tons and tons to talk about, right? But yeah, that's kind of the notes I had. I don't know if you guys have any questions about living in Tokyo, or um, kind of what it's like to live and work in Japan. If you had any questions about that, or even questions about anything else like marketing or the best places to view cherry blossoms or things like that. I do work in like tourism based marketing, and I actually do marketing for like the Japan rail infrastructure, like a lot of different Japanese train companies, like foreign facing marketing and stuff. So I do a decent amount of tourism marketing, and it's an area I'm pretty passionate about. So if you guys have any questions about that, that's cool too. But yeah, other than that, I think that's kind of it. Yeah, and probably end stream if there's nothing else. Thanks everyone for joining. I saw there was 5 total people. Holy moly. No way. You saw? Yeah, so um I we actually just started running those ads last month. So I that's so funny you saw that. Yeah, so I end up making video content for a rail company. I guess you already know what it is, maybe, and doing like day trips outside of Tokyo for like Hakone and Kamakura and stuff like that. And my voice, I do the voiceovers for the videos, and I do the planning for the videos. Um, Good luck with the IKEA lady. She sounds brutal. Um, um, but yeah. So we actually just started running ads for that, and my voice is kind of proliferating out. Um, I'm actually also. I wonder if I can like screen share or something. Recently, I went to Odawara Castle, and we actually did a bunch of content with me as the actual center of the content, which is a first. Normally, I don't enter the content because I don't do a lot of the filming, because I don't have time, because I have to like do marketing stuff. So I just do the voiceover and the planning for the videos. But this time I was able to go to Odawara last week, so you'll see me in a samurai costume, maybe in some ads in a month or two, which is kind of cool. But yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to talk about. Tokyo is really fun. One last thing I would recommend if you guys come to do Tokyo. Nobody likes Halloween here anymore. Oh, wrong one. This Halloween. Every Halloween I do a trade up challenge. Last year I traded up from a clip into something worth about $100 in about an hour. I have experience now. That's not to say that like uh, everybody can do that. It took me many years to get good enough to do that. Um, the first time I did it, I think it took me an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I traded a paperclip into a power bank. Um, that was really fun. It has nothing to do with Halloween per se, but Halloween in Tokyo is really fun. There's so many people going off and doing things. It's like one of the unique times in Japan, or sorry, in Tokyo specifically, where people are like having a fun enough time to like interact with people. It's kind of like a modern like festival kind of. They canceled Shibuya Halloween, so you're not allowed to go there and do that anymore. I think it sucks. There's like Ikebukuro, which has great Halloweens, and also Shinjuku, which I went to last year. It's pouring rain, but I got some great trades and it was super fun. If you guys end up coming for the fall at any time, highly recommend just going and enjoying some Halloween fun and spirit. Uh, best holiday in Japan because Christmas sucks here. You can't eat real turkey. KFC is not that good, and Golden Week it's really busy. But anyways, that's my last thing on Halloween and how good it is, and the power of people in Tokyo. So thank you so much, guys, for watching and listening. I will probably be doing these live streams maybe once a month, or if I could make more topics, uh, more than that. But it takes a while to think about things to talk about and make my ideas. Uh, I'll probably end up cutting these up into videos or something. So look forward to that. Thanks so much, and talk soon. Bye.